What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? I grew up with rich kids and still keep in touch with a few of them. One guy's father owned the most prestigious law firm in town. He said his life changed the moment he called his father from jail, the second time it happened. His father said, "Well, sorry to hear you got arrested, good luck," then hung up. He said getting locked back into his cell was the singular moment that completely turned his life around. That's a good life lesson. Sounds like the dad cares, but wants his son to actually grow up, to be a good successful person. Do you know if he actually turned his life around and got better from there? My grandfather was the same way as an attorney/father. A favorite family story is when my uncle called him from a police station on a Friday night. He was in high school at the time and got caught drinking. My grandfather answered the phone and simply asked, "What did you do?" And my uncle responds, "Nothing." "Great, tell them to let you go," hangs up the phone and goes back to sleep. Both my uncle and the police were stunned, but it being the weekend, my uncle ended up having get transferred to the county jail until Monday morning. The police from the jail called my grandfather on Monday morning and said, "You've got to pick the poor kid up." His time in jail wasn't particularly traumatic, but it taught him a pretty valuable lesson in how principled my grandfather was. Had he been honest and just admitted what he did, he wouldn't have been in that situation. I knew this rich kid from high school that went off to college and partied every single night. His parents found out that he was failing basically all of his classes, so they secretly drove up early one Saturday morning with the spare set of keys to the car they had bought him and just drove off with the car. My parents did this to me in college, but it was because they found out I was living with my boyfriend and they didn't believe in sex before marriage. I thought my car had been stolen. I guess technically it was. Edit. Holy shit. I didn't expect anyone to care about this. I'll just respond to all the questions here. My name was on the title. My parents had bought the car outright when I turned 16. But I worked for my mom *s business and had been foregoing a salary through the end of high school to pay for the car. They gave it back eventually. The resentment stayed, and I moved several states away a few months later. I came back to visit, nearly died in an accident in the same car, with the boyfriend they hated. He and I broke up. They were right about one thing. He sucked. My parents have since outgrown their religious weirdness. Yada yada. We are extremely close, and they really love and accept the man I currently live with, who I'm very much not married to. Depends whose name is on the title. Rich guy in our college dorm thought he was untouchable cause his dad was some NFL player from the 90s and had not blown all his money yet. He would get freshman girls blackout drunk and then film himself having sex with them and then show all his buddies the next day or so. Well, one buddy was not as close as he thought and went to the RA, who then went to campus police and then real police. It was a fun night watching the parking lot fill up with the bored cops on duty that night and haul his ass out of the dorms while they went and gathered his evidence. What happened to him afterwards? Did he return to school? Never saw him after that night. This took place near the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, cause I remember going to class on Monday and his dorm was empty and being cleaned by the housekeeping staff. I have a similar story. I was raped my freshman year of college by a senior who slipped something in my drink. While I didn't go to the police until it was too late for evidence collection because I was dumb and thought if I had peed I couldn't get a rape kit, I went to my college's Title IX office. Dude got the fanciest lawyer and thought he was untouchable because his family donated and knew the chancellor. I worked my little tushy off to counter his BS claims and show them what he did to me, and he was expelled. He no longer has a fancy degree and can't go to one of the top law schools in the country that he was accepted into because now he has no undergrad degree and hurt other women. Edit. Thank you for all the love and support. It was a really rough time and didn't happen that long ago, so sometimes hearing the news / what shitty people say is really soul crushing. You all have lifted my spirits and made me feel so good about myself. Thank you, lovely people. That's an amazing story. It takes a lot of courage to go through something like that. I was assaulted by someone when I was in the military. This was 20 years ago, and I just never had the guts to report it. I really admire women like you who had the courage to deal with the whole process of seeking justice. Please don't think of it as having guts or not. You coped in the best way you could at the time. Not only that, but in the military, that shit is highly protect our own boys club. I could see reporting your rape as being scary in normal circumstances, but the added government boys club, especially 20 years ago, is such a different environment than civilian life. You did what you could do with the tools you had. Yes, you can have regrets, but please don't beat yourself up over it. Hope you've found peace and healing in your life since then. That one Instagram model who got caught on video talking shit to a security guard at VidCon. Not only did the guard stand his ground and not let him in because he wasn't famous enough to be given a pass and too rich to just buy one, but once the internet saw the video, the guard ended up with more followers than the kid. You're irrelevant. I'm attractive as fuck. I make a lot of money. Bruh, WTF. I had a roommate my freshman year of college that came from an incredibly rich oil family from the Middle East. I remember him having the hardest time adjusting to not having someone else prepare him food. I remember waking up one morning and going to the kitchen and seeing him try to eat eggs and toast he had just prepared himself. He asked me how I normally prepare fried eggs because his tasted really crunchy. Turns out he had just cracked the egg hole into the pan and prepared it shell and all. I couldn't stop laughing, but felt really bad for the dude. At least he tried. True. He was a good dude. Was an interesting semester helping him learn how to live, providing for himself. That sounds like the plot of a sitcom that I would actually like to watch. Similar thing for me. We had this Middle Eastern basketball player in the room next to us first year of college. He'd tell us incredible stories about his life, even got chased by an army for courting a princess. He just was extremely clueless when it came to interacting with people here. Super nice guy, I hope he's doing okay. My best moment was when I got hired by a pair of Woodside, California parents to transition their horrible 18-year-old into the realities of real life, something that evaded both of them. My first action was to take away his platinum, limitless credit cards. He threw a tantrum that lasted several days. Where am I going to get money? Get a job. My parents will fire you. They didn't. When he realized that boundaries and budgets had been set in stone, and that he not only had to pay the bills, the rent, but taxes too, he headed straight to college to wait out the next 4 years. He is still a little jerk, but at least he has a job and an education now. How does one get into this line of work? I was the nanny while working through my PD.D, so I came to it indirectly. There is a whole workforce of folks who do this, word of mouth and next door. One of my college roommates told his parents the trip we were planning, that they were paying for, was $400 more expensive than it was, so he could buy a really nice barn. In addition, they basically paid for everything he wanted. He had their credit card and ordered food on it at least once daily. He also would make $50 purchases off the card pretty regularly. Long story short, they found out he lied about the cost of the trip. For whatever reason they still paid and let him go, but after the trip he could not use their card anymore. This dude acted like he lived the hardest life of all time afterwards, but eventually sucked it up. He actually acts way less entitled now. It ended up having a lasting positive effect for him, even though he wouldn't admit it. While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window, and one proceeded to tell me about a great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday, with no adult in the party. just a bunch of teenage girls out in Vegas, where none of them could do anything because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They start yelling and screaming at me. I calmly call security, and security tells them they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try to find a hotel off the strip that will take them and W/out being 21. The anger turns to tears. The security guard is unmoved. No joke here. Back in high school, 90s, this kid got a brand new Chevy Camaro. I had an old ass 80s Pontiac Phoenix that had the straight six. It was by far not a racing car, but this tool was just looking to brag at what he got compared to the busted cars we got. About 2 days later, while we were waiting at a stoplight, this idiot tries to race us as I'm in my car, and I pull up with my friends. He starts by revving it really loud and tries to do a burnout. Mind you, the light was red and the roads were not wet. So he managed to get a tiny burnout going, some smoke and whatnot. When his tires did catch traction, he went barreling into the intersection and smashed the car of the wife of one of the very few cops in my small city. Needless to say, that didn't work out for him very well. At the start of this, I thought you were just explaining the plot of Tokyo Drift with slightly different cars. Don't know if I'm happy you weren't bamboozling